The phone rang at exactly noon. Not loud. Not urgent. But somehow the sound felt heavy inside the room. The old man sat near the window, facing the ocean. The beach house had been his life's work, built piece by piece, year by year, with hands that now trembled slightly with age. The phone screen lit up. Tamana. His daughter. He waited a second before answering. "Hello, Dad," she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Like this was just another call on a busy day. He smiled faintly. "Tomorrow is your wedding," he said. "You must be very busy." There was a short pause on the line. "Yes," she replied, "but we're leaving tomorrow." "Leaving? What do you mean leaving?" he asked. Her tone stayed flat, professional, almost bored. "Your beach house has already been sold. All the papers are signed. Goodbye." The call ended. The silence that followed felt enormous. The room suddenly seemed too large, too empty. The old man stayed seated. His hands rested on the arm of the chair. They shook slightly, but his eyes remained dry. This house, this window, this view of the ocean. Half of his life lived here. Slowly, he picked up the phone again and called her back. "Wait," he said when she answered. "You forgot one thing." A sigh on the other end. "What now, Dad?" The old man laughed softly. Not a happy laugh. Not an angry one. A calm, knowing sound. "You sold the house," he said slowly, "but you didn't ask who was still inside it." There was a pause. "What are you talking about?" Tamana asked. He looked out at the ocean. The water was unusually calm today, as if it already knew. "The house was sold earlier than you think," he said quietly. "We're not leaving tomorrow, but we were supposed to leave today." Her breathing changed. "Dad," she whispered, "what are you saying?" This time his voice was clear. "You didn't just sell the house, Tamana," he said. "You sold me too." The line went dead, and at that exact moment, someone knocked on the front door. Hard. The knock came again. Louder this time. Firm, official. The old man stood up slowly. There was no fear in his movement, only certainty. As if this moment had been waiting for him, not the other way around. He opened the door. Two men stood outside, dark suits, serious faces. "Mr. Rahman?" one of them asked. "Yes," the old man replied. "We're here regarding the property," the man said. "The ownership transfer was completed this morning." The old man nodded. "I know." That surprised them. "You were informed?" the second man asked. "My daughter handled everything," he said calmly. They stepped inside. Their eyes moved across the room. The simple furniture, the framed photographs, the quiet life frozen in place. One of the men said, "The buyer was told the house would be vacant today." The old man folded his hands. "And yet," he said softly, "I'm still here." A pause. "There were supposed to be arrangements for you," the man added carefully. The old man smiled faintly. "That word again," he said, "arrangements." One of them asked, "Do you have somewhere else to go, sir?" He looked around the room. The chair by the window. The ocean beyond the glass. A photograph of Tamana as a child. "No," he said, "I don't." The men exchanged a glance. "You won't be removed today," one said, "but we do need to follow up." The old man nodded. "Thank you." As they turned to leave the room, he spoke again. "My daughter's wedding," he said. "It's today." The men stopped. "Yes," one replied. "We'll be there this evening." The old man closed his eyes briefly. "Good," he said. "She should see me too." Outside, the ocean remained calm. Inside, the truth had already started moving. The wedding hall was filled with light. Crystal chandeliers reflected off white walls, soft music floated through the air, and laughter echoed from every corner. Everything looked perfect, too perfect, like a scene carefully designed to hide its cracks. Tamana stood behind the curtains, holding her bouquet tightly. Her fingers hurt from gripping it. She took a slow breath and looked around. Bridesmaids moved quickly, fixing dresses, whispering last-minute instructions. Everyone was busy. No one was watching her closely. She checked her phone again. No missed calls. No messages. Not from her father. A small knot formed in her chest. She told herself it meant nothing. He was old. He would understand. Or he would stay quiet. He always did. A woman approached her. 5 minutes, she said softly. Tamana nodded. She stepped closer to the mirror. For a second, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. The face was beautiful, polished, but the eyes looked tired, alert, as if they were waiting for something to go wrong. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her heart skipped. She answered. Ms. Rahman, a male voice said calmly, this is the county office. We need to confirm your presence at the venue today. Her throat went dry. Yes, she replied, I'm here. Good, the voice continued. There are a few details we'll need to clarify in person. This isn't a good time, Tamana said sharply. It's my wedding. There was a pause. Then today is the perfect time, the man replied. The line went dead. Tamana lowered the phone slowly. Across the city, the old man sat quietly in the back seat of a car. He held the photograph against his chest. The frame was old, edges worn smooth by time. He traced the glass gently with his thumb. The driver glanced at him through the mirror. You okay back there, sir? Yes, the old man said. I'm exactly where I need to be. The car stopped. The doors opened. The sound of music spilled out, joyful, loud, careless. The old man stepped out. Inside the hall, the music changed. Tamana lifted her head. That was her cue. She began walking forward, every step rehearsed, every movement practiced. Guests smiled, cameras clicked. Then she saw them. 2 men near the entrance. Dark suits, serious faces. And between them, her father. Time slowed. Her steps faltered. The photograph in his hands was unmistakable. Her, as a child. The music faded into nothing. Her father walked forward slowly, calmly, as if he belonged there more than anyone else. Tamana's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't supposed to happen. And for the first time since she signed the papers, she felt something unfamiliar rising inside her. Fear. The music stopped. Not slowly. It cut off suddenly. Tamana froze in the middle of the aisle. Whispers spread through the hall as heads turned toward the entrance. 2 men in dark suits stood there, and between them, an old man. Her father. He walked forward calmly, holding a framed photograph in his hands. Tamana's heart dropped. Dad, she said quickly, forcing a smile, this isn't the place. He stopped in front of her. I know, he said gently. That's why I came. One of the officials stepped forward. Ms. Tamana Rahman, he said clearly, we need to speak with you regarding the recent sale of a property. Murmurs filled the room. Tamana shook her head. This can wait. The official didn't move. Her father lifted the photograph slightly. This was taken the first day she saw the ocean, he said. She was afraid. She held my hand and wouldn't let go. Tamana looked away. The official continued. The funds from the sale were used to cover an overdue payment of $200,000. A sharp silence followed. Her fiancé stared at her. What is he talking about? She didn't answer. Her father lowered the photo. You needed the money today, he said quietly. So you chose today. Tamana's voice cracked. You didn't need the house anymore. He nodded slowly. No, he said, but I needed to know if you still needed me. No one spoke. The official stepped closer. We'll need to continue this conversation after the ceremony, one said. Tamana stood motionless. The wedding hall felt smaller now, and the day she thought she controlled was no longer hers. The ceremony did not stop. After a long, uncomfortable pause, the music returned. Softer this time, uncertain. Guests shifted in their seats, unsure whether they were still witnesses to a wedding or something else entirely. Tamana remained standing. Her bouquet lay forgotten on the floor. Her fiancé leaned toward her again. Tell me what's happening, he whispered. Please. She took a breath. After, she said. We'll talk after. It was a lie, and both of them felt it. The official stepped back, giving the appearance of patience. But his presence lingered, heavy and visible, like a warning that refused to leave. Tamana looked at her father. He stood quietly now, hands resting at his sides. The photograph was no longer raised. It hung there, heavy, like the past itself. You embarrassed me, she said, her voice low. You could have waited. Her father met her eyes. I waited for years, he replied. Today just happened to be the day you needed something. That cut deeper than anger. She turned away from him. Let's finish this, she said sharply, gesturing toward the altar. The officiant hesitated, then nodded. The ceremony continued. Vows were spoken. Hands were joined. Words about love echoed through the hall, thin and fragile. Tamana repeated them without meaning. Across from her, her fiancé searched her face, trying to find reassurance. He found none. When it was over, polite applause followed, short, unsure. As guests began to rise, the officials moved forward again. "Miss Rahman," one said calmly, "we need you to come with us now." Her fiancé stiffened. "What does this mean?" Tamana straightened her shoulders. "It means nothing," she said too quickly. "Just paperwork." She turned to her father. "This ends today," she said. "I'm done." He nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "So am I." That confused her. Before she could ask, the officials spoke again. "There is one more matter," one of them said. "The buyer of the property has raised concerns." Tamana frowned. "What concerns?" The man looked at her father. "He was not informed," he said, "that the sale included more than just the house." The room fell silent again. Tamana felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean?" she asked. Her father finally spoke. "You sold everything," he said gently, "without reading all of it." Her heart began to race. The officials exchanged a glance. "The contract," one said, "included long-term residency and care arrangements, signed under your authorization." Tamana stared at them. "That's impossible," she whispered. Her father met her eyes. "You wanted to be free," he said, "so you signed me away." The truth settled heavily between them, and for the first time, Tamana realized this wasn't just about money. It was about what she had lost control over. Tamana felt the room closing in around her. The words "signed me away" echoed in her head, louder than the whispers of the guests, louder than the officials standing only a few steps away. "That's not what I signed," she said quickly. "I wouldn't—" The official opened the folder again. "You authorized the sale through a bundled agreement," he said calmly. "Property transfer, financial settlement, and long-term care placement." Tamana shook her head. "No, I only approved the sale." Her father watched her carefully. "You trusted someone else to read the details," he said. "Just like you trusted me to disappear quietly." Her fiancé stepped closer now, his voice tight. "What kind of care placement?" The official answered before Tamana could. "A private residential facility," he said. "Fully paid, permanent." The word permanent landed slowly. Tamana's mouth went dry. "That's not what I wanted," she said. "I was just trying to handle things." Her father nodded. "I know," he said softly. "You were always good at handling things by letting others carry the weight." The guests were no longer pretending not to listen. Some stood frozen. Some whispered openly now. Tamana lowered her voice. "You could have called me. You could have stopped this." "I did call," he replied. "You were busy." That was true. She remembered the missed calls, the unread messages, the irritation she felt seeing his name on her phone. The official closed the folder. "The transfer is legal," he said. "However, given the circumstances, we're required to confirm that all parties understand the agreement." Tamana looked at her father. "What happens now?" she asked. He took a slow breath. "I go where you sent me," he said, "and you go on with your life." Something twisted in her chest. "That's it?" she asked. "You're just okay with this?" He smiled faintly. "I stopped expecting more," he said. Her fiancé looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You never told me any of this," he said quietly. "I didn't think it mattered," Tamana replied. He nodded slowly. "That's the problem." The official stepped forward again. "We'll need to proceed shortly," he said to the old man. "The vehicle is waiting." Tamana's heart skipped. "Now?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. Her father picked up the photograph again. He looked at it once more, then turned it face down. "I don't need to carry this with me," he said. "I already remember." Tamana swallowed hard. For the first time since this began, she reached out. "Dad!" He paused. Not turning. Not responding. Just pausing. That small hesitation hurt more than anything else, because it meant the decision was no longer hers. And whatever happened next would not be undone by apologies. The sound of the door opening echoed through the wedding hall. Not loud. Not dramatic, but final. Two officers stepped aside as the old man slowly moved forward. His steps were steady, but every movement carried the weight of a life being folded away. Tamana felt her throat tighten. "This can't be how it ends," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. Her father stopped just before the door. For a moment, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Then he turned. Not fully. Just enough to look at her. "When you were little," he said calmly, "you used to cry if I left the room without telling you." Tamana's eyes burned. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know." He nodded once. "That's the saddest part," he replied. "You didn't care enough to know." Her fiancé stepped forward suddenly. "Sir," he said, "if this is about money—" The old man raised his hand gently. "It's never just about money," he said. "It's about value." The word hit hard. Tamana's mother's absence. The years he worked late. The quiet dinners alone. All reduced to a signature. The official cleared his throat. "We really must go." Tamana took a step forward. "Wait," she said. Everyone turned to her. Her father looked at her fully now. "Yes?" Her voice shook. "What if I cancel everything?" Silence. The guests leaned in. The officers paused. Her father studied her face. "And what changes?" he asked. "Do you suddenly see me? Or do you just fear what people will think today?" She couldn't answer, because she didn't know. Her fiancé looked at her then, really looked. "This is who you are," he said quietly, "and this is who you hide." Tamana felt exposed. The official spoke again. "Miss, if you wish to reverse the agreement, it requires immediate financial responsibility." "How much?" she asked. The number was spoken. Her face went pale. She didn't have it. Her father smiled sadly. "Don't ruin your future trying to fix your past," he said. He turned back toward the door. But just before stepping out, he stopped again. "One last thing," he said. He reached into his coat and placed something on the table. A small envelope. "For you," he said. "Read it after today." The door closed behind him. Not slammed. Not dramatic. Just closed. Tamana stood frozen. The wedding music started again, awkward and distant. She stared at the envelope, and suddenly realized some doors don't close to punish you. They close to teach you what you lost. The music played. Laughter followed. But Tamana heard nothing. Her hands trembled as she picked up the envelope. It was thin, light, almost harmless, yet it felt heavier than anything she had ever held. She didn't open it. Not yet. The wedding continued around her like a play she no longer belonged to. Someone whispered, "Smile." Someone adjusted her veil. She smiled for the cameras. But inside, something was cracking. When the ceremony finally ended, Tamana slipped away into a quiet hallway. The noise faded behind her. She sat on a wooden bench, alone. Slowly, she opened the envelope. Inside was a single page. No long speech, no anger. Just her father's handwriting. "Tamana, if you're reading this, it means I failed to say these things out loud. Not because I didn't feel them, but because I didn't want you to feel guilty." Her breath caught. "I never wanted your love to come from fear or obligation. I wanted it to come from choice." Her eyes blurred. "I sold the house because I was tired of waiting to be remembered. Not by you alone, but by myself." She pressed the paper to her chest. Memories rushed in. Him waiting outside her school. Him saving money instead of buying new shoes. Him clapping the loudest at events she never thanked him for. "I don't hate you. I'm just tired." That line broke her. A tear fell onto the page. Then her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She ignored it. It rang again. She answered. "Yes?" A calm voice replied. "Miss Tamana, this is regarding your father's legal arrangements." Her heart skipped. "What arrangements?" she asked. There was a pause. "Your father has transferred all remaining assets into a trust." Tamana stood up. "A trust for who?" Another pause. "For you," the voice said, "but with conditions." Her grip tightened. "What conditions?" "You won't receive a single dollar," the voice continued, "until you can prove, legally and emotionally, that you can live without expecting it." Silence swallowed her. "And one more thing," the voice added. "Yes?" "He left instructions that you may not contact him." The call ended. Tamana stared at her phone, then at the letter, then at the hallway where her father had walked away. For the first time in her life, she understood. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks away quietly to see if you'll follow. The wedding night was supposed to feel warm. It didn't. Tamana sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her jewelry. The room was quiet, too quiet. Her husband slept already. Or pretended to. She stared at the wall, her father's letter folded neatly in her hand. You may not contact him. The words echoed like a sentence. She stood up slowly, walked into the bathroom, and looked at herself in the mirror. Perfect makeup. Perfect dress. Perfect stranger. Who are you now? She whispered. The phone on the counter buzzed again. Another unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Yes? This is the assisted living center, a woman said gently. We're calling because Mr. Rahman left today. He checked out voluntarily. Tamana's breath froze. Where did he go? She asked. I'm sorry, the woman replied. He asked us not to share his location. The call ended. Tamana slid down to the floor. So he wasn't hiding. He was leaving. The next morning, she made a decision no one expected. She removed her rings. All of them. Gold, diamonds, symbols of comfort she never earned. She placed them carefully into a box. Then she packed a small bag. When her husband asked, confused, "Where are you going?" she answered honestly, "I don't know yet." He laughed. "You'll come back when you realize life isn't that simple." She looked at him calmly. "That's exactly why I'm leaving." Tamana walked out of the house without money, without a plan, without calling anyone. For the first time in her life, she didn't ask for help. She took a bus. Then another. The city changed. The buildings grew smaller, the streets quieter. At sunset, the bus stopped near a coastal town. The smell of the ocean hit her chest. She stepped down and froze. Across the road, faded and worn, stood the old beach house, her father's house, the one she thought was sold. Lights were on inside. Someone was there. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she crossed the road, each step heavier than the last. Just as she reached the door, it opened. An elderly man stood there. Not her father, but someone who knew him well. He looked at her, then sighed softly. "So," he said, "you finally came on your own." Tamana stepped inside the old beach house. The smell of salt and old wood filled her senses. Dust covered the corners, but everything else was untouched. It felt alive, as if the walls remembered her laughter, her cries, and her father's quiet footsteps. The elderly man who had opened the door watched her carefully. "Who are you?" Tamana asked cautiously. "Someone who knows him better than anyone else," he replied, "and someone who knows why you've come." Tamana's hands shook. I just need to see him." He nodded slowly. "You will, but first, you need to understand what he left behind." He led her to a small study at the back of the house. Papers, ledgers, and photographs were neatly stacked on a desk. One envelope sat on top, marked with her father's handwriting. "This," the man said, "is what he wanted you to find. The truth about the property, the money, and the choices he made for you." Tamana hesitated. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the envelope. Inside were letters, old documents, and photographs spanning decades. One photograph stopped her heart. Her father, much younger, standing beside a woman she had never seen, smiling, happy, holding a baby, not her. "Who is this?" she whispered. "That," the elderly man said softly, "is the reason your father made the sacrifices he did. The person he lost, and the reason he always put others first." Tamana's mind raced. She had thought her father's life was simple, quiet, predictable, but now she realized his life was layered, complicated, filled with choices she had never known about. Every dollar she had taken, every step she had tried to control, traced back to a story she had never been told. She sank into a chair. The letters in her hands felt heavier than any money, heavier than any contract. I didn't know," she whispered. "I thought I was right. I thought I was protecting him." The elderly man shook his head gently. "Sometimes, understanding comes only after you step away. You couldn't have seen this before today." Tamana looked around the room. The ocean waves crashed softly outside the window, carrying a quiet rhythm. She realized the house wasn't just a building, it was a testament. To love, to sacrifice, to secrets that shaped everything she thought she knew. For the first time, Tamana understood something she had never felt before, true respect for the man she thought she knew. And just then, she heard the front door open again. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Her father had returned. The front door creaked slowly. Tamana's father stepped inside. He looked older, more fragile than she remembered. but there was a calmness in his eyes, a quiet strength that even years of misunderstanding could not erase. "Tamana," he said softly, "I see you found everything." She rose from the chair, clutching the letters. Her voice trembled. I didn't know. I had no idea about any of this. The house, the trust, everything. I thought I was right." He nodded slowly. "You were right in thinking you had to take control, but you didn't understand the weight of what you were trying to move." Tamana's tears finally spilled. "I thought I was helping you, protecting you, but I only made things worse." Her father stepped closer, careful, deliberate. "You didn't make things worse. You acted out of love, but love isn't always enough. Not without understanding." She lowered her gaze. "I signed everything without reading it properly. I didn't know what the documents meant." He shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. "I know. That's why I left the letters. So you could learn without blame, without fear, so you could see the full story on your own." The waves outside seemed louder now, carrying the weight of every unspoken word, every hidden choice, every sacrifice. Her father gestured toward the photograph of the young woman and the baby. "This was a life I never shared with you because I didn't want it to complicate yours. But every choice I made after, every decision about the house, the trust, your future, it all ties back to this moment." Tamana swallowed hard, the reality settling like a stone in her chest. I don't know if I can ever repay this," she whispered. "You can't," he said calmly. "And you shouldn't try, just live. That's the repayment. Live with honesty, with care, with respect." She looked up at him, her mind racing. All the anger, all the frustration, all the pride she had carried seemed small compared to the truth now laid bare. I don't know what to do next," she admitted. He smiled faintly. "Then start by doing nothing. Listen, learn. Let the past guide you, not bind you." The ocean waves whispered through the windows. The room held a silence so deep, it felt almost sacred. Tamana took a step closer to him, hesitated, then reached out. He didn't move. He simply let her come. For the first time in years, they stood face to face, not as father and daughter divided by pride or money, but as two people who had finally found understanding. And in that silence, something shifted. A bond that had been stretched thin by mistakes, contracts, and unspoken words began to mend. Tamana returned to the study, her hands still slightly trembling from the balcony's breeze. The envelope her father had left was still there, along with the other letters he had written over the years. Her fingers hovered over one that looked older, frayed at the edges. The handwriting was unmistakably her father's, but the ink had faded with time. She knew instinctively. This letter had never been meant for her eyes. She unfolded it carefully. "Tamanna, if you are reading this, it means you've reached a point of understanding I hoped you would achieve on your own. There are things I could not tell you while you were growing up, things I carried silently to protect you." Her breath caught.
"The woman in the photograph, the one you saw today, was my first love. I lost her before I could ever marry. And the child you saw was not meant to be part of your life. Yet, every decision I made after that, every house, every trust, every sacrifice, was influenced by that loss. You must understand that love and loss coexist in ways the heart cannot always comprehend.
Tamana's eyes blurred as tears formed. She had never imagined the depth of her father's life outside of what she knew. The sacrifices, the silence, the patience. It all had roots in something far deeper than money or property. I leave this for you not as a burden, but as guidance. When you hold the power to act with honesty and care. Life is not measured by wealth or control, but by the choices made in quiet moments. Tamana's hands shook. She pressed the letter to her chest, feeling the weight of decades of her father's love, his silence, his solitude. She sank into the chair, trying to comprehend how one man could carry so much and still stand tall, still offer lessons even in absence. The door creaked behind her. She looked up, startled. A young woman entered quietly, almost hesitant. She carried herself with grace and a subtle familiarity that made Tamana pause. "You're Tamana?" the woman asked softly. Tamana nodded slowly, her voice caught in her throat. "Yes, and who are you?" The woman smiled faintly. "I knew your father well," she said, "and I think it's time you knew a little more about him, and about yourself." Tamana felt her heartbeat quicken. This was unexpected. She hadn't anticipated anyone else stepping into her father's carefully hidden world. "You have letters," the woman said, glancing at the desk. "But there are truths that letters cannot capture. Sometimes, seeing and listening is the only way to truly understand." Tamana realized, with a strange mix of fear and anticipation, that her journey had only just begun. The sun outside was setting, painting the room in shades of gold and orange, but inside, the shadows of secrets long held were just beginning to reveal themselves. And for the first time, Tamana understood that understanding her father's life would require courage she had never summoned before. Tamana stared at the young woman who had just entered. Her presence was calm, yet commanding, as if she belonged here, not just in the house, but in the story that had been hidden for years. "I'm Amina," the woman said softly. "I worked with your father many years ago. I've seen things, kept secrets, things he never told you." Tamana blinked, uncertain. "Why are you here?" Amina stepped closer, her eyes steady. "Because he trusted me, and now he trusts you. There are pieces of his life and of yours that can only be understood with guidance." Tamana swallowed hard. She had spent hours reading letters, looking at photographs, trying to understand her father's choices. But Amina's presence suggested there was more. Much more. "You knew him well?" Tamana asked. Amina nodded. "Better than most. I was there during times he couldn't tell anyone. Times when he made choices not out of necessity, but out of hope. Hope that someone would understand. Someone would continue the path he started." Tamana's hands shook. I feel like I've failed him already." "No," Amina said gently. "You are only beginning. That is why I'm here. To show you the rest. To help you see the man beyond the father you knew. The man whose decisions shaped everything you have today." Tamana glanced at the photograph of the younger man and the baby. The truth she had uncovered so far was heavy, but now she sensed that weight was just the beginning.
"What do you mean?"
she whispered. Amina picked up a small, worn notebook from the desk. "This contains accounts, decisions, and memories he kept for you. Not all letters are meant to be read. Some are meant to guide, some to warn, and some to prepare you." Tamana's heart raced. She realized the journey of understanding her father's life and her own past was far from over. "Where do we start?" she asked. Amina smiled faintly, opening the notebook carefully. "Where he began, and where you thought you understood him but never truly did." Tamana nodded, feeling the weight of anticipation, fear, and curiosity all at once. Outside, the ocean waves crashed gently, mirroring the turmoil inside her chest. For the first time, she understood that this house, these letters, and now this visitor, were not just part of her father's story. They were part of her own awakening. And the lessons she was about to learn would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, sacrifice, and trust. Amina opened the notebook carefully, flipping past pages filled with meticulous handwriting, photographs, and faded receipts. "This," she said, is where your father's story truly begins. Before the house, before the trust, before the sacrifices you know about. Tamana leaned in, her eyes wide.
I thought I knew him, she whispered. But I don't even know where to start.
Start here, Amina said, pointing to a photograph. It was of a much younger man, Tamana's father, standing on the same beach, smiling at a woman holding a baby. His eyes were full of longing, and there was a sadness beneath the smile that words could never capture. That woman? Tamana asked. Yes, Amina replied. Her name was Layla. Your father loved her deeply. But circumstances tore them apart. The child, the life he could have had, it was never meant to be his. Not fully. Tamana felt a chill. All this time, everything he did while carrying this secret? Amina nodded. Every decision, every property, every trust, every step he took to protect you, your family, and his own regrets was influenced by her absence. Tamana picked up the notebook, carefully tracing the handwriting. Why didn't he tell me, she asked, her voice shaking. Why hide all of this? Because he wanted you to live your life without carrying his regrets, Amina explained. He feared you would make the same mistakes, or worse, feel the weight of decisions that weren't yours to bear. Tamana swallowed. And the house, the sale, the trust, all of it tied back to her? Yes, Amina said softly. And now you have to understand not just him, but the consequences of his choices, how they shaped your life, and how your choices today will shape the rest of yours. The weight of realization hit her hard. Every frustration, every argument, every misunderstanding she had with her father now made sense in a painful, almost unbearable way. Tamana's hands trembled. I thought I was just angry, just frustrated about money, about control, but it was never that. It was about all of this. She gestured at the notebook, the photographs, the room, the ocean visible through the window. Amina nodded. And now it's up to you. How will you move forward knowing everything? Tamana sat back in the chair, staring at the ocean waves, her mind racing. She realized that understanding her father's life and his sacrifices meant more than reading letters or seeing photographs. It meant facing the choices she herself had made. For the first time, Tamana felt the full weight of responsibility. Not just for the house, not just for the trust, but for herself, and for the legacy her father had quietly passed to her. She looked at Amina. Show me everything, she said. I need to know it all. Amina smiled faintly. Then let's begin. This will not be easy, but it is necessary. The ocean waves crashed outside, carrying with them the sound of a story that had waited decades to be told. Tamana knew one thing clearly. Tamana opened the notebook. Each page told a story, not about money, but about her father's quiet sacrifices. Nights he worked extra to pay debts. Meals he skipped so the family could eat first. Arguments he let slide to protect relationships. He never told me this, she whispered, tears welling. I thought he was distant, cold. Amina nodded. He wanted you to grow strong without guilt, without dependence. Tamana paused at a letter describing her childhood illness. Her father had quietly worked to secure funds while keeping her comforted at home. The note ended. I would endure anything to see you safe, Tamana. She pressed the paper to her lips. Frustration, misunderstanding, betrayal, all seemed small now. How did he do all this alone, she asked. Because he carried it silently, Amina said, and wanted you to find your own strength. Tamana realized that anger and sense of loss came from not seeing the choices he made quietly, out of love. I've been selfish, she admitted, thinking about what I lost, not what he sacrificed. Amina smiled. And that is the start of your understanding. You cannot change the past, but you can honor it now. Tamana nodded. Her gaze drifted to the ocean. Amid the chaos, clarity formed. I need to set things right, she said quietly. Not just the house or trust, but with him and with myself. Amina approved. That's why he left the letters. Not to dwell on mistakes, but to guide you to the right choices. Tamana closed the notebook gently. I understand now, and I'm ready to act. The sunlight warmed her face, permission to move forward, forgive, and rebuild what silence had broken. Outside, the waves crashed. Inside, her heart felt steady. She turned to Amina. "Show me the rest," she said. "I need to see every choice, every sacrifice." And so, guided by Amina, Tamana began uncovering a lifetime of quiet heroism, her father's legacy, written in actions meant only for her. Tamana sat quietly as Amina opened another section of the notebook. The pages were filled with decades of her father's sacrifices, decisions she had never imagined.
"This is his biggest sacrifice," Amina said. "Not money, but life itself, comfort, happiness, recognition, all given so the family could live safely."
Tamana leaned in, heart racing. I never knew," she whispered, tears forming. "I thought he was cold, selfish." "No," Amina said gently. "He worked silently to protect you, carrying burdens alone so you could grow without fear." Tamana pressed her palms to her face. Anger, frustration, misunderstandings, all seemed small compared to his life of silent sacrifice. "I need to make this right," she said firmly. "Not out of obligation, but because I understand now. I must honor him with action, not just words." Amina nodded. "Understanding comes before forgiveness. Forgiveness comes before action. You're ready for the next step." Tamana picked up a photograph, her father, smiling faintly beside the woman from the letters, the baby in her arms. She saw now the weight he carried: love, loss, regret, hope, all hidden behind quiet strength. "I will honor him," she said, determination in her eyes. "Every choice I make from now on will respect his sacrifices." The notebook lay open, pages spread around, a testament to a life lived quietly for others. For the first time, Tamana felt connected to her father, not just as a parent, but as a human being who bore unimaginable burdens silently. The sun set outside, painting the room golden. Tamana's heart felt lighter, ready to face the future with courage and understanding. The next morning, Tamana awoke before sunrise. The ocean outside was calm, but her mind was alive with purpose. After hours of reading letters, examining photographs, and listening to Amina, she finally understood the weight of her father's sacrifices. She took a deep breath and made her first decision, not out of obligation, but out of understanding. She would return the trust, reorganize the house, and ensure that every asset her father left behind was managed responsibly. Not because anyone forced her, but because she wanted to honor him. Tamana began by writing emails to the financial office, detailing her plans and taking full responsibility for her father's assets. Each word she typed carried intention and honesty, reflecting the lessons she had absorbed from the letters. After sending the emails, she stepped outside. The early sunlight kissed her face, the breeze carrying the scent of salt and possibility. She felt the weight on her shoulders, but it was not heavy anymore. It was purposeful. Amina joined her quietly, handing her another notebook. "Your father left instructions here," Amina said. "It's about the relationships, not just the property. How he wanted people treated. How he hoped you would continue his legacy." Tamana nodded. She opened the notebook and began reading carefully. She found letters meant for employees, neighbors, and friends, guidelines on fairness, kindness, and honesty. Her father had thought of everyone, leaving instructions not to control but to guide. Her eyes fell on a note addressed to her. It read, "Tamana, always act with integrity. The choices you make will define not only your life, but also the lives of those who depend on you." Her chest tightened. She realized that this was the real inheritance, lessons on character, responsibility, and empathy. Wealth could come and go, but the guidance in these letters was timeless. Tamana spent the day calling everyone mentioned in the letters, apologizing for delays, clarifying misunderstandings, and taking responsibility. Each conversation, though difficult, brought her closer to understanding her father's vision. By evening, the house felt different. It was no longer just a building filled with memories. It was alive with purpose. Every decision, every corrected mistake, every act of honesty was a tribute to the man who had carried burdens silently for decades. Tamana sat on the balcony as the sun dipped below the horizon. She felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of rightness she had never experienced before. The ocean waves mirrored her calm, and for the first time in years, she felt truly at peace with her choices. She realized that understanding her father's sacrifices was only the beginning. True respect would come from action, consistent, honest, and compassionate. And in that moment, Tamana knew she had taken her first step, not just toward honoring her father, but toward becoming the person he had always hoped she would be. Evening was quiet, but Tamana felt something more awaited. She had followed her father's guidance, honored his legacy, yet a sense of unfinished business lingered. Amina handed her a small envelope. "There's one more piece," she said. "From him for you to read now." Tamana opened it. Letters addressed to family members revealed connections, confessions, and reconciliations her father had kept secret for decades. One letter was to her late uncle, someone she barely knew. "My dear brother, I'm sorry for the distance and misunderstandings. Tamana must understand. Our pride and silence shaped lives more than we realized." Tamana's chest tightened. Every act she had blamed on neglect was actually protection. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Her cousin entered cautiously, holding a small box. I was told to give this to you," he said. "From your father, after you understood everything." Inside were letters, photographs, and an old key. They revealed family secrets, trusts, and reconciliations her father had orchestrated quietly. "He wanted everyone united," her cousin said softly. "He trusted you to carry it forward." Tamana's eyes welled with tears. I understand," she whispered. "I will honor him, not just with actions, but with how I lead, forgive, and care." Her cousin nodded. The room, heavy with unspoken secrets, now felt alive with possibility. The ocean whispered outside, echoing her resolve. Courage wasn't just confronting mistakes. It was facing the truth, accepting it, and creating something better. Her father's sacrifices, silence, and foresight had prepared her. Now it was up to her to honor him, not just in memory, but in life. The next morning, Tamana woke to the soft glow of sunrise over the ocean. The house, once heavy with secrets, felt lighter. She had spent days uncovering her father's sacrifices, reading letters, and connecting with family. Now it was time to act. She walked through the rooms slowly, touching familiar furniture and the notebooks that had guided her. Each object told a story, not of wealth, but of love, patience, responsibility, and integrity. Tamana held the old key her cousin had given her. It wasn't just for a room or a safe, it was a key to understanding and to the legacy her father built silently so she could continue it. Outside, she called her cousin and Amina to join her in the garden. The ocean waves whispered nearby as if affirming the moment. "I understand now," she said. "All the letters and sacrifices, they were never about wealth or control. They were about love, preparing me to live with integrity." Her cousin nodded. "And now you lead, Tamana," he said, "with courage and honesty." She smiled, feeling decades of weight lift from her chest. "I will," she said. "And I will remember, not just mistakes, but the lessons and sacrifices that made this possible." Amina placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're ready," she said. "Ready to honor his legacy and create your own path." Tamana looked at the horizon, the sun rising, illuminating the ocean. Life, she realized, was like the waves, sometimes rough, sometimes calm, but always moving forward. Her father had taught her patience, responsibility, and courage through silence, and now she could embrace them fully. She held the notebook close, letters secure, key in her pocket. Everything felt connected, the past, present, and future. The ocean continued to crash gently outside. Tamana, standing tall, felt a new beginning. She was ready to honor the past, embrace the present, and step into the future with courage and heart. Her father's legacy was no longer a burden. It was a gift, a map to life, love, and resilience. The story ended, but Tamana's journey was just beginning.